the SAMRO MOI. Last week we did the objects of the company, and just to recap and bring you back, remember when we're talking about the objects of the company, we were talking about how the objects have really changed since the inception of SAMRO in the 60s, and how they are trying to make sure SAMRO fulfills PBO status, but we don't understand why, because even under PBO status, you might get tax cuts, but it's only for the philanthropic work that you do. And even that philanthropic work, it's not just for musicians, it's for all artists. So the objects, we already spoke about how they're problematic. But this week, we're looking at the powers of the company. Okay, so 4.1.1 says to hold, control, administer, make use of, exploit, commercialize, exercise, and or enforce administered IP rights as contemplated in the MOI. I know when you look at this clause, you're thinking to yourself, exploit and commercialize. That sounds like a music label. But in the context of SAMRO, it's so that they can make sure that they can collect all your money for all of the IP. So it's the rights that you assign to SAMRO, which is the administration right. Okay? So no, SAMRO can't go to Deprente Films and to do a licensing agreement with Deprente. Your publisher would still do that, or you would do that, and you would charge your fee, your licensing fee, for the use of your particular song. This exploit and commercialize is in the context of them being able to exercise your IP, to exercise their right to administer your IP. So to collect the royalties that SAMRO collects. So I know when you read that line, it looks like, wait a minute, is that a record label? No, not in this context. You don't have to worry about that. 4.1.2, what I want to take out of 4.1.2 is, it's by way of assignment. SAMRO can really only collect for the people that assign that right to SAMRO. And now this is the issue when we're talking about undock, when we're talking about those monies that are not, or miss, the ones that are actually captured incorrectly. There's the undock where it's captured incorrectly, and there's undock where it's not even captured. So now I'm talking about when the rights have not even been assigned. SAMRO still collects. Because when we're looking at organizations, SABC doesn't want to deal with Nomsa Mazwai, Tandiswa, or Salanga. SABC can't deal with 3 million or even 8,000 in the case of SAMRO, 8,000 rights holders. It's too much admin, which is why SAMRO is there to go and collect. But they collect for everybody. That's why when you're talking about undock and the fact that we redistribute it, we are actually redistributing some money that was mismatched. So the thing was listed, you listed the name differently or incorrectly, it can't be matched, so mismatch. But some of that money is just undocked. It's people that have not assigned at all. But because SAMRO collects for everybody from SABC, they then collect for even people that have not assigned their rights to SAMRO. And it's because they're so big that they can do that. Guys, I just need to do a little caveat. I'm a mom. I'm a single mom. Auntie that works here is having something was wrong with her, so she's gone to the clinic. So you'll be hearing my minions every now and then, but I'm gonna try to be as loud and as clear as possible. Right. So now I want to talk about why it's important for a SAMRO to exist. There is something called a carve out. This is the competition for SAMRO, for Capasso, for all of the collecting rights organizations. There's companies, international companies that come into South Africa and they carve high earners out. So they'll carve a Casper out, they'll carve a Mang Mang out. And we know the music industry, guys, our careers, they go up, they go down, they go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. Now, with a carve out, you are now at the mercy of this organization that is not member owned. It's a private company. And private companies are profit driven. When you are not a high earner, for anybody who's signed to a publisher, to a record label, you know yourself. When you are not the popular artist, you don't get all the attention. So that's what carve-outs do. When you're hot, they will treat you very well. But what happens when you're not hot anymore? Are they collecting on your behalf? Are they doing everything that they can to find every single cent of your money? The importance of a member organization is that even the smallest of the small, a carve-out will never ever pick an emerging artist or a small artist who's not earning. If you're not showing up when they look, if you're not showing up on Spotify as a discernible percentage, like when we look at the whole of South Africa, that you make up a 1%, that's a lot of market share for one artist. They might pick you. But if you are earning from Spotify 1,000 Rand or 2,000, something small, they're not interested in you. But what happens now? The high earners at SAMRO and the record labels and all of those people, they're important because their revenue is the one that enables SAMRO to operate. That admin, that 25% or 15% admin that they take, we make it mostly from the high earners. Now, if we take the high earners out, we're going to lose that. So as much as we are having this dialogue, we must always think about our entire universe. But just to bring it back to 4.1.2 by way of assignment. So here we're talking about you have to assign your rights to SAMRO in order for them and for you to hold them accountable, which means you become a member. Now, 4.1.3 to 4.5 and 4.9 and 4.10, I have done an infographic. Okay. So these parts of the powers of the company, I put in an infographic. So they've got the powers to administer your rights. It means that they can enforce legal proceedings if rights are being used without being paid for. They can make sure that people pay you. They get the information from you. They also get information from your music users. That these really talk about the extent of SAMRO's rights, right? But you have to assign your intellectual property to them. So you look at that man, that head with the light bulb and the thing, you have to assign your intellectual property to SAMRO. And so it's the information, you can see the eye is going there. You give them the information. They give you the money based on the information you give them. That means as a member, we spoke about this in one of our artist INDABAs. We said, why is it that we have to have so many complicated terms when it comes to artists? ISRC number. Okay, that's a global identifier. We can have that. But then now SAMRO has membership numbers. And we even said, why is SAMRO not using our ID numbers so that we can collect properly? Because people get their member numbers wrong, or they don't remember their member number, or now there's this member number. Like, why are we creating another layer of identification when we can just use the ID? And we spoke about that even for publishers, they should just use their company registration. If a company goes under, then you have to put another company registration number. But we spoke about we need to manage this information that we're giving to SAMRO. And we need to, when we talk about the MOI, we need to have input on how do we make it easier for members, and how do you make it easier for SAMRO to even find members? Because if it was about the ID number and your music is allocated to your ID number, surely they'd be able to find you because there's an ID number that's there somewhere. If it's you with the publisher, surely they'll be able to find the publisher and be able to track and trace the information. So that's for us as members when we go into the EGM and they say we're going to be discussing the MOI. I think the discussion is going to be about the MOI in total. And you know my opinion, I think that we should have a members boss to discuss this entire MOI. But before we get there, we are having our class and we are talking about the MOI. Okay, sharp. SAMRO then administers your rights. They make sure that they hold people legally accountable. They make sure that the laws protect us. They make sure that everybody who uses our music pays us. And one of the really great things that SAMRO's done in the recent past is that they actually started to talking to the taxi drivers. I don't know if you guys know this. Started talking to the taxi association saying, in fact, taxis are supposed to be paying usage of music. And I want you to understand like the thinking and how incredible it is actually. There are 15 million people who get on a taxi every single day. 15 million riders. And I want to be clear, Uguti, if you get in a taxi in the morning, you go to work, and you get in a taxi at work and you go home, that's 2 rides, okay? But there's 15 million times that people are actually getting in and out of a taxi. Ukhozi FM, which is the largest radio station, it used to be in the world. I don't know if they still hold that position. But in South Africa, they have 7.9 million listeners. That's the radio station whereby if your song is trending on Ukhozi, you are getting paid. They've got 7.9 million listeners. Taxis have 15 million listeners every day at different times of the day. Do you understand? And taxis have got this thing now where they get MP3s of USBs and they play USBs in the taxis. They owe us money. So SAMRO is going to the taxi associations. I believe they were working on this. I don't know if they've been talking about it, but I know that there was a time when I heard about, this being talked about. So they go and they collect from the taxis. They go and they collect from the broadcasters, the film producers, the festivals, the clubs, anybody who uses the music. And here I want to talk about streaming platforms. There's a new phenomenon called streaming platforms. And on these streaming platforms, our music is being utilized. But the streaming platforms are saying that it's too much administration for them to know how much to pay SAMRO. And they're not reporting. And that money goes, and it goes as they distribute it on market share. So this is a problem because for most independent artists, you want to find your niche when you're an emerging artist. You don't want to go into, you're not trying to compete with the artists that have got muscle record labels behind them. For example, myself, I went to I don't know, I didn't go to Discam, but I played my music to my market, and somebody in my market got my music on Discam radio. Every Discam, it is what it is. Maybe I is playing in Discam. It is what it is. Hey, people are sending me. They're like, hey, I'm in Discam. Your song is playing. I'm excited. I go to my publisher. Universal, what's up? Discam is playing my music. They say, no, Discam, just like Spotify, just like Showmax, just like all of them, they don't want to record Uguti and do reporting. It's also like the community radio stations. Uguti, on this day, we played the song and the song and the song and the song. And then send it our way. They don't want to do that. Yabo? So what happens is that they will pay SAMRO. But what SAMRO does is that they distribute that money based on market share. That's a problem. Because I'm not part of market share. I am Nomsa Superstar Emerging Artist. Now I've got a niche. I'm in Discam. My music is music that people see and puts people in a happy mood to buy. Why am I not getting paid? So the Discam, they don't want to switch off the music. They're happy to pay SAMRO. SAMRO is happy to take the money. But now, as a member of SAMRO, I said to SAMRO, you got to do something to be able to collect my money. So now SAMRO, wherever they can't collect, they've been saying that they want to put actual people, like they said they're going to send a person to do notifications at SABC. As members, when we know this information, as a member, I want to say, right, SAMRO, with undock that money, instead of redistributing it per market share, we would like you as members to take that money and put it in investing in digital technology that will help identify music, so that at Discam nationwide, you just need to have one radio monitored device at Discam so that it can tell SAMRO whose songs played. We don't want this distribution by market share. If you're a member who is part of the membership, part of the masses, market share distribution should be the thing that you fight the most, because that money goes to high earners and it's not their money, because they know how to collect. They know how to notify properly. They don't make mistakes. Trust me, they're not making mistakes with their money. Sony is not making mistakes with notifications. They're not making mistakes. They're not mismatching nothing. They're collecting. So everything that's usually undocked, that prescribes and then becomes market share, we should fight that with all our might. Market share is not a thing. Up-and-coming publishers would like market share because they have a lot of artists signed to their roster. So they'll say, well, SAMRO, they'll fight to get but we've got this much percentage of the membership. So they'll be fighting for themselves. But as an artist, I really believe that we should really not want to do market share distributions. We should utilize Undock really to invest in tech that's going to make sure that we match works correctly with the right composers, with the right authors. Sharp. The 4.9, 4.1.9 and 4.10 are also talking about reciprocal agreements. This is when SAMRO is saying our territory extends beyond South Africa. We're going to collect from UK, we're going to collect from SCAP, we're going to collect from PRS in the UK. This is the SAMROs of the other parts of the world. So the arrows there are both ways. They share information, they send information, they send money. Just like these ones, they send information, they also send money. And they do that. It's a reciprocal agreement. They say, here we'll do this, we'll collect on your behalf, and we'll pay for you. And SAMRO says, we'll do the same for you on this side. So these are reciprocal agreements that SAMRO, Capasso, SAMPRA, they enter into. I want to say one thing about SAMPRA, though, in terms of needle time. In the USA, they don't have needle time. Do you know that? The way we love to collaborate with artists from America. Hey, we love to collaborate with artists from America, guys. But in America, they don't have needle time. Do you know that? So when are you busy doing a song with Usher? Or you're doing a song with Taylor Swift? Or you're doing a song with whomever in America? The American is very happy because they're gaining market share in Africa. You must remember that the way there's growth, it's Africa. Because mobile penetration is growing in Africa. Mobile penetration and access to internet is growing in Africa. In America, it's almost at 100%. Everybody's connected to the internet. Everybody's got a mobile connection. Everybody, like, they can't grow anymore in America. So when they collaborate with you in South Africa, they're growing in South Africa. So these are the kinds of things that, as a membership, you should be aware of, because you might want to collaborate actually with artists that are in France, or artists that are in Germany, or artists that are, you know what I mean? Because you must, yes, there's more earnings in other markets, but there's also money that you're not going to earn. Obviously, this doesn't affect SAMRO, because in the USA, there is SCAP, but I'm talking about SAMPRA, which is another collecting management organization. Okay, just to know, Uguti, this is how they do it. As a member, then, when you think about what SAMRO does and what they're doing for you, then we should be able to monitor this, right? We should be able to see, we should be able to say, okay, SAMRO, how are you doing in terms of the copyright amendment bill? What's happened? How are you pushing? What have you done? What was your KPIs? And a key performance indicator is when people say, by this date, we're going to have achieved this. It's not enough to say we held meetings with these people, then we went and we met with the minister, and then we did, no. Well, now we know that as SAMRO, in terms of the copyright amendment bill, this is what we want. You bring it to the members. Members agree. This is what we want. Then we say, okay, how are we going to get there? SAMRO, the board is the one that's going to say to the executive, how are we going to get there? And the executive will have key performance indicators. When we are at our AGMs, guys, we must pay attention to those key performance indicators for the things that matter the most to us. Well, now we like to focus on revenue. But the Copyright Amendment Bill is talking about legacy revenue. It's talking about your children's money, your children's children's money. We also want to know about that. And we want to have clear, quantitative reporting on that. We want to know, Wuti. We said by this time, we're going to have gotten it, we would have been able to achieve this. Maybe we say by April 2025, we want to have ensured that we have held information sessions around the country about the Copyright Amendment Bill. They must say, yes, we held these information sessions. 2,000 people attended. These are the numbers. This is how we hold people to account. Another KPI, there's a lot of people, when we're talking in the media, Jerusalem is the biggest one. Hey, where people are fighting in court. The first court where people fight, it's SAMRO. That's the first court, guys. When somebody says, this is my song, and somebody says, no, it's not your song, it's my song. That's where the dispute starts at SAMRO. SAMRO needs to tell us, and this is what's captured in the powers and duties of the company. When we are at AGM, we're supposed to be wanting to know, Uguti, how many disputes happened in this period, this last financial year? They must tell us, hey, in the last financial year, we had 300 disputes, we had 3,000 disputes, we had 5 disputes, we had 4 disputes. Then they must tell us what kind of disputes were these? Because we're talking about the forensic report. The forensic report will tell us what kind of disputes we must look out for in the future. That's when we read the forensic report. We go to, hey, here's some disputes here because some people are claiming from monies of dead people that their families don't know about SAMRO. People are clever. They know good. Uban money, their family doesn't even know about SAMRO. So Mina, I'm going to say with Yimuri Ashlim Shopper's family and I'm going to collect on his behalf. You understand? Or Yimi Uban Bani, I'm going to collect on this behalf. Because you must understand, inside SAMRO is like a bank, yabo? So you know, like an inside job. We're going to see in the forensic report. I don't know whether this was happening. But if you are somebody in the department that's matching works, then you're going to see the works that are not being claimed, that are undocumented. And before it goes to prescription, after 3 years, before it's going to prescription, it's going to be distributed via market share. You're like, hey, man, let me ask my cousin from Kwamashu. This is a Zulu Maskandi song. Let me say he's the guy, must claim. We want to know what kind of, yabo? And we're going to get that from the forensic report. As members, we want to see in KPIs. They must tell us, this year there were 300 disputes. How many of these disputes were resolved by SAMRO? Because SAMRO must tell us, these disputes, we resolved them. Then they must say, these disputes went to the courts. That means, of that money they're taking to administer, there's a part of the job that they're not doing. If there's 300 disputes and all the disputes went to court, there's a job that they're not doing, guys. And as members, we should be worried because it means that if somebody who's big uses my music without my permission and I go to SAMRO and I say, SAMRO, fight for me, that if this person's got enough muscle and they take it to court, I'm screwed as a member, which means you don't deserve 15%. These are the things that are coming out of the MOI. This is how we hold our organization to be accountable and to be effective for us. 4.1.6. And I'm taking us back to the objects. Remember when we were talking about the objects? We're talking about these objects of the company. Because SAMRO wants to be having public benefit organization status for tax cut purposes, the objects of the company have now included basically servicing the arts. Like we're basically making ourselves a Department of Arts and Culture. So now when we have a power of the company that says to process, compute, or apportion the license revenue received or collected after deduction of expenses, so that's their admin fees, deductions necessary for the continued operation of the company, that's what they do to run the operations. But then they said, other deductions that are permitted and approved as contemplated in the MOI. It's a problem. It's a problem when our objects of the company are so broad. It's a problem. Because it means that the board is empowered to permit and approve such things. And we don't know what such things can be. It can really be to pay for acting workshop. I'm not saying that they're doing it, but it can be. Because our objects of the company say to the benefit of arts and culture. You understand? So 4.6 is one of those clauses where you're like, wait. It's a problem if the objects are too broad. Our objects, guys, are way too broad for SAMRO. And that's what makes our MOI so thick and confusing. 4.1, I think this was 4.1.5. But check, guys, 4.1.6 says, to incorporate or acquire subsidiaries in connection with the advancement of its objects. This is you guys when you're saying, why did they? Who gave them permission to buy? You gave them permission, members. The MOI is too broad. It's too much to be broad, guys. Are you broad? Ngoba incorporated the company. You understand? And then they can even acquire subsidiaries in connection with the advancement of its objects. This is a problem because let me give you an example. I'm from Mkanduli. I decide that I'm going to start a company, a SAMRO, like Mkanduli. And I'm going to be very good at PR. Mkanduli is a very impoverished place. So even if I've got 5 million rand in the bank, I can make this thing happen. Go to Mkanduli, set up my own little SAMRO, start doing this for Mkanduli artists. And I'm paying artists. You must remember, in Mkanduli, when I'm paying people 1,000 rand, they're like, I am about this organization. They will sing my praises. I've made an illusion. I'm a scammer. I've got a partner there in the board of SAMRO. They can acquire me. Bang 10 million. 10 bar. Our powers, guys. We must be clear about our powers. I'm not saying that there's not a reason to acquire subsidiaries. There might be a Lesotho SAMRO. I want to go to South Africa. There might be a Lesotho SAMRO. And the Lesotho SAMRO, really, the reciprocal agreements, and they just finding Uguti, actually, we just want to be bought by SAMRO, and then you can have access to Lesotho. There might be an argument for that. But I'm just saying that, when you go to AGM, guys, we must be paying attention. Because here we were buying a company, or we were incorporating a company to operate out of Dubai. And we were spending a lot of money to operate in Dubai. Why were we not asking, isn't there a SAMRO in Dubai? Why were we not asking, okay, why are we in Dubai? Yeah, because maybe they'll say in Dubai, there's so many venues, there's radio stations, the whole world goes to Dubai. We want to be in Dubai because we want to export our music to the world, and this is how we're going to do it. We're going to do it in Dubai. But even then, the people that make such deals happen. It's like mining. Everybody wants to be in mining, guys. But there are so many charlatans in mining. Right now, I can say I want to buy a diamond, and someone will sell me a stone that looks like a diamond. That's not a diamond. Manje. The music industry is even bigger and broader than that. And it's got even more mushiga than that. So, the balls, guys, yeah, we had balls. We had them. Balls of steel. To do such a deal, it's an undertaking. And you kind of would want to not do that at board level. You might want to actually acquire the services of a company that has a reputable reputation for closing such deals. That's why we have an industry for deal makers. There's something called deal makers. People that run organizations and all they do is make deals. It's called investment advisories. Those places that Womang Tebe investment, people that we know, there's brands. SAMRO is not that. Which is why we lost some money. I'm not saying we mustn't be bold and mustn't be brave and we mustn't have balls of steel, but we must be strategic. And we must know what it's in our MOI that allows it. And then there was the hula hula baloo about who's selling SAMRO house. It's there in the powers. 4.1.12 says to establish any trust as a collecting society or any object similar to the company, including without limitation, to administer all parts of the administered IP rights of members and other persons, and to donate or transfer property in the widest sense of the company to such trust insofar as it consists with or ancillary to the objects of the company. The objects of the company that are problematic. Then it says to purchase or acquire movable and immovable property and any rights insofar as is consistent with or ancillary to the objects of the company. The objects of the company. We have to fix the objects of the company. But the MOI does say that the power, the company has these powers. But here we're reading about the company. And later we're going to talk about the directors, right? The board. What are they allowed to do? But the company can do this, okay? So I don't want to say that the board has a right to do it. The company can do it. So as members, our MOI says, yeah, we can buy a building. Of course. Yeah, we can sell a building. Yeah, we can establish a trust. So even in that YouTube, when Annabelle, the CEO of SAMRO, was explaining to us, she said, we've got SAMRO the trust. And then the trust owns the property. Okay? And the trust is paying back SAMRO the money that SAMRO lent the trust to buy the property. So when you're reading our reports, it's very important. In fact, when we finish this, we must have a nice checklist. I used to work in investment advisory, and it would be good to have a checklist based on our MOI. When we are reading our report of the SAMRO report, we must be able to say, okay, they're saying here, they're talking about SAMRO House, they're talking about how much they've paid back. When we're looking at their balance sheet, when we're looking at their income statement, all of that, we'll be able to say, oh, okay, so we linked SAMRO Trust this much, 140 million to buy the SAMRO House. By now, they've paid back this much. Okay, great. But we must be able to tick based on our MOI, because anything that is in the report, it must be something that is enabled by the MOI. It's enabled by these powers. Then we go 4.1.14. The clause says to provide through trusts or associations or otherwise for social and cultural objectives, including without limitation by way of the provision through trusts or associations or otherwise of gratuities. What's a gratuity? At the restaurant, a gratuity is a tip. Donations. What's a donations at church? Donations is money you're giving away. Pensions is something that you get at work so that when you retire, you've got something. And or other benefits. Benefits can be a housing allowance, can be a travel allowance. And they say this is for authors, proprietors, and their heirs or employees of the company and their wives, husbands, widowers, families, or dependents. Why are employees of SAMRO included here? I want to understand. Because there's a clause in the objects of the company that says people that are employed must get paid, and they must get paid as within they must get paid and they can get bonuses. It's already covered. So why are they here? Because the only people who should be getting gratuities, donations, pensions, and any other benefits must be authors or composers and their wives, husbands, widows, widowers, fellows, and dependents. Why are employees of the company, guys? Why are we as SAMRO, a member organization for music composers and authors? Why are we making sure that employees are sorted when we are ourselves not sorted? I don't think employees should be here. I think employees must be paid their salaries and they must be paid their bonuses as per their performance. But we can provide through trust or associations or otherwise. Yay. I don't know why employees are here. And then remember, in our objects of the company, we're talking about all artists. We're not just talking about composers and authors. Why? Why is SAMRO here for everybody just because we want a tax break? This tax break is expensive. This tax break is expensive. Then it says in 4.1.15 to invest the assets and monies held or owned by the company, including without limitation, to invest and deal with the monies of the company in such manner as may from time to time be determined by the directors, and to apply the proceeds of such investments in any manner consistent with the MOI and the Companies Act. Our MOI is problematic, but why are we investors? But we may want to be investors. I don't want to say we in this way, Yabo. We may want to be investors, guys. Imagine if SAMRO had said, we've seen this thing called radio monitor in USA. And we don't have this thing in South Africa. Maybe we should invest in this technology and get the rights for this technology so that we can roll it out in Southern Africa first and then roll it out in the rest of Africa. Remember, SAMRO can still grow into the rest of Africa because it can grow and serve underserved communities, which means more for all of us. There may be reasons for us to invest, but when we are investing, this is when we say we need the policies of the company. Because it's the policy of the company that says undock is distributed via market share, or we have to follow a process within. But do you understand? There's an accounting policy that says that this becomes, it prescribes, and then the members decide what they do with those prescribed monies. Maybe that's what the policy looks like. I don't work at SAMRO. I don't know what the policy looks like. But we must make sure that if our MOI says we invest, then we must have an investment policy. When we are investing as SAMRO, these are the processes that we follow. We just don't wake up, jiggy, today I'm an investor as well. Because a good idea does not mean a good outcome. I'm not saying Dubai was a bad idea. Dubai might have been the best idea, guys. Dubai could have been a strategic move that could have made SAMRO the leading thing. Must remember that there was a time when Eskom was the leading electricity management what system in the world. The whole world used to come in for trainings at Eskom. People like in Germany used to fly to Eskom to come and see how does South Africa trade. That's how good we used to be at that. So it's not that we mustn't be bold. Not that we mustn't have balls of steel. But we must have policies to help us. Sometimes we are biased, and also as members. Because sometimes our Baizan vibes is because as members we don't know our own policy. Maybe that Dubai thing was going to work out. We don't know. But because we don't know the policy, maybe we think about it. I want to talk about SAMRO House. And when they was down, the members say, you're selling SAMRO House. What if, because everybody's working online from home, there's very few people at SAMRO who need to be in an office. Do we need to pay for an office? Do we need to pay for such a big building? Maybe that was a real opportunity. Maybe they were offering more than the value of the property for the property. Do you understand what I'm saying? maybe it would have been a good business deal for us to actually sell SAMRO House. But number one, we don't know if there's an investment policy in-house as members. And if we've approved and we're happy with that investment policy. If we're happy with that investment policy, when we hear SAMRO House is being sold, we say, oh, okay, we'll hear about it at the AGM. We relax. Because guess what? Let's say a multinational like Unilever says, we need an office. It has to be by Wits. It has to be by Wits. And we own SAMRO House. SAMRO House is worth 200 million, but Unilever is willing to pay anything for SAMRO House. Hey, it turns out Unilever is willing to pay $500 million. They're willing to pay 500 million for that house, SAMRO House. Why wouldn't we sell it? When there's another way we can operate. Because SAMRO is supposed to serve all South Africans. It doesn't make sense that there's only SAMRO House in Joburg. It's supposed to serve all musicians, composers, and authors. We should be having satellite offices, maybe 1,000 of them. We should be like a bank branch that are all over South Africa. Or ATMs. We should be having ATMs all over South Africa. Where art composers can go and register their works. They can check on their royalties. They can do what they need to do. That's what I'm saying when we say we must be agile. We must be able to understand that. Because there might be a good reason. But what happens? We go to the media. Yeah, the broad is corrupt. They're selling SAMRO House. Unilever, the investors at Unilever, guys, they're watching that in the media. They're saying, the members don't want to sell this thing. We're busy fighting. The price is going down of the SAMRO House. We had an opportunity to make a lot of money, but because we haven't read the MOI, and because maybe we don't have policies, or because we haven't streamlined our thing, we're not a ship that's moving in the right way. You know, we're not in a rowboat and we're rowing together at the same time. There's coordination. There's no coordination. Then now SAMRO House is back to 250 million. We still need the ATMs, but now we lost out on 250 million. That we could have actually taken that profit and opened satellite SAMROs all over the country. Or we could have taken that money and said, okay, we're opening satellite SAMROs and we put in this money in an investment account, and the interest from that money is actually what pays all the people that work at those desks. That kind of thinking means we never have to worry about those offices ever again, because they're paid for by interest. Guys, yeah. So sometimes when we're making a row, we're also killing ourselves. Okay. Invest and deal with the monies of the company in such manner as may from time to time be determined. Hold shares in any other company that, in the view of the board, is anticipated or capable of being conducted so as to directly or indirectly further any of its objects. We need an investment policy. We need to see the investment policy. We need to understand the investment policy, even if it's the board. Because our MOI has got such a big investment focus, guys. Why is it that we've never appointed a SAMRO member who is an experienced investment banker? I can tell you now for free, I used to work in an investment advisory firm, and people there were SAMRO members. Not all musicians are high earners. We have careers. We should be saying one member of the board is a composer member, but this composer member has got the credentials of, also got a master's in economics, has got this, has got that, has got this. Job description. Our MOI should be telling us the job description of our board members. This thing where we appoint board members because they are popular, it doesn't serve us. Appoint board members that know what they are doing. The SAMRO board is not about how many records you sold. It's about understanding the business. I want to leave enough time for questions, so I'm just going to go to this last part. There's this clause here that I say to myself, Abel, you know when they say you take one step forward and 2 steps back? 4.3 sounds like that to me. Listen to 4.3. Notwithstanding the omission from this MOI of any provision to that effect. The company may do anything which the Companies Act empowers the company to do, if so authorized by the MOI. Haibo. But we're saying that the MOI doesn't say this thing, but the MOI must authorize it. Too much. We must remember, guys, I always say this, that when we are in leadership, we must be pragmatic. You must understand your membership. The creatives are the geniuses of society. They are the geniuses. They are the geniuses. Mozart was a genius. Moses Malelek was a genius. They are not the technocrats. There's a difference between a genius and a technocrat. The people that are reading this MOI are not the technical people. You know, there's people where they walk into class and they get it. They understand. Then there's that person who's very studious. Very studious people write this MOI. But the people who must read it are not necessarily the people that, it's not the same people. We need to write the MOI for the people that catch concepts. People that catch concepts don't have to pay attention to detail too. What are we saying here? Doesn't make sense. The PBA set out in clause 3 will be carried out in a non-profit manner and with an altruistic philanthropic intent. Philanthropic intent. For who? For what? The PBAs is because you want that tax cut. This tax cut is expensive, guys. It's expensive. I'm not sold that we need public benefit status. Capasso has the Capasso members set up, they said a percentage of UNDOC must go towards empowering authors and publishers, or I don't know, it must be developmental. They don't have PBO status, but they're doing it. You don't need PBO status to be a good person. You don't need PBO status to deliver some social services to your membership. You don't need the PBO status. The problem with PBO status is that it must be available to the public. You can't say it's only for my members. That is not a public benefit anymore. So in order to do this PBO, we need to be saying, Lemalesi collector can benefit anybody. Because if somebody who's not a member of SAMRO were to apply for one of these SAMRO things, and SAMRO to say to them that you don't qualify because you're not a member. If SAMRO is using public benefit money, that person has the right to take SAMRO to court and say, they said I can't do it because I'm not a member of SAMRO, but this is under their PBO. And their PBO says in the arts and culture industry. It's expensive. I don't think we need it. I don't think we need it. But that's just me. I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert in public benefits. There are people that can do an analysis of the past public benefit thing, how much it benefited and how it was spent and the value that we got from it as an organization. And they can produce a report for us. Yeah, those are the things as members we're supposed to say. We're supposed to say, before we say we're not PBO, we want to get an analysis, a report, so we can make an informed decision about, is this PBO really worth it? But to me, on the surface, just looking at the MOI, from my perspective of somebody who's doing the MOI, it's just added a lot of confusion to a document where the membership of this organization, remember, you don't need a matric certificate to make music. We are not talking about the builders, the people that have to be part of, I don't know if it's called CIBD or for construction or from architects. For construction, you need to have certain qualifications to be there. So the MOI for that organization can be very technical. Yeah, well, the MOI for the Builders Association and Regulation Authority. Yeah, well, that MOI, But when it's Kwasela, it can that English can do backflip, it can do a triple roll, dive, backflip, somersault. But the people who need to read that are people who have to have a master's degree. That is it. But in SAMRO, you can have completed grade 2 and be a SAMRO member. Our MOI is supposed to look like, honestly, in my opinion, our MOI for SAMRO, for the business that we do, should look like this. It should be an infographic. It should be informative videos. And as members, you watch the video and you say, yes, that's what we are. And then when we want to make an amendment, we amend it. But the accessibility should be infographics. Colleagues, that's where we are with the objects of the company, with the powers of the company. We've spoken about all the powers of the company. Where are the cracks? Where are the concerns from my side? I utilized those powers to also explain some controversial issues we've been having. And now I'll be going back to take any of the questions that you have pertaining to this particular chapter that we just covered. All right, colleagues, let me check for comments. Right. I'm looking at your questions. What does MOI stand for? Memorandum of Incorporation. An MOI is the contract that is entered into by the people that are incorporating a company. So let's say I want to open a company, but I want to open it with 3 other people. And with a member organization, it's actually 8,000 people. I think SAMRO has 8,000 members, or now it has 13,000 members. And MOI is now 13,000 members. We're all coming together to open this one company. This is the contract that is saying the agreement that we agree that our company is going to do this. That's an MOI. Then there's something that says MOI, not MOI. That's my daughter Embo. She thought we were talking about her. She always takes high offense to people talking about her. The system is centralized worldwide. You will pretty much need to change the legislation. Change the legislation. I don't understand that question or that statement. Yes, SAMRO does form part of a bigger organizations and affiliates and does reciprocal agreements. But in South Africa, remember, we have a decision. The MOI for SAMRO in South Africa is written for South Africans. Yes, it must align to the MOI of the organization that it is a member of itself, right? I don't know if it's CISAC or there's a big one. No, CISAC is the one for in France. But there's one that is they all go there to meet each other as SAMROs of the world. We must align, but it doesn't mean that our MOI must look like this. Remember, in America, they've got a different education system. They've got a different median education level in their country. They don't have 11 official languages in America. So for us to say our MOI must look like this, it's not true. Our MOI must be fit for purpose for us. It must fit for purpose for us. We must be able to understand it. We must be able to use it. So in South Africa, our MOI must be something that is easily consumed by people who speak different languages, which is why I speak about infographics. Infographics, when you go to the male or the guy toilet, the girl or the guy toilet in the restaurant, you don't have to be baffled. We know. That's why I talk about infographics. When you're in a country that speaks so many languages, you want to utilize signs. So, and we must be able to benefit from our heritage. When you look at our alphabet and our languages and our history, where we come from, Adinkra, our own alphabets and our things, it's really, when you look at Adinkra, you can look at the picture and figure out what it means. No matter where you're from, once you understand, Maguso, when something is inside a circle, it's meaning this. When something, our language, when you looked at our alphabet, when you look at African alphabet, it was very much about, it doesn't matter what language you speak. In all these languages, a circle means a circle. A man means a man, a woman means the signs mean things. So when I'm talking about infographics, that's just a very modern way of saying Adinkra. How do artists get needle time after signing up with SAMRO? SAMRO does not administer needle time rights. That right is collected by SAMPRA. Needle time is administered by SAMPRA. So you have to be a member of SAMPRA to get needle time. SAMRO does not administer needle time. SAMRO administers performance, the performing right. They are the performing right administrator, okay? So they are that. Capasso is the mechanical right. The mechanical right is the copies. Mechanical right is when people make copies. So Spotify, SAMRO will collect the performance because your music is performing on Spotify. But Spotify, in their distribution, it's copies of your music. That's anybody's getting copies. So there's a mechanical that they're collecting. That's why SAMRO and Capasso also copy. They also collect from SABC because SABC broadcast. So your performance is there. But what they're broadcasting is actually a copy, the mechanical right. And then SAMPRA collects needle time. And also you must remember that SAMRO is for IP. SAMPRA, so intellectual property. So you might write a song, but it might not be your voice. So if I'm a songwriter, but I'm not a singer, I'm going to collect from SAMRO. The singer will collect from SAMPRA. Okay? Because SAMPRA collects for the person who's performing. Doesn't matter if it's yours or you are performing somebody else's work. Whoever's performing. So that's why backing vocalists, session musicians, they must go to SAMPRA to collect on needle time. All right. What's this? How do I register MOI, my record label at SAMRO? Should I register and open an account at F&B? Oh, no. In order to register a company, it's very simple. You go to Biz Portal. And let me just make sure what the website is called. It's Biz Portal. You type BIZ Portal. BIZ Portal. Just wait for my bizportal.gov.za. Bizportal.gov.za. That's how you register a company. So there you'll say your company, it's 100 and something rand. You registered online. Biz Portal, CIPC writes an MOI for you. Okay? They call it articles of incorporation. For member organizations, they do memorandum, but MOI it's for any company, private company. All of us have articles or memoranda of incorporation. So for CIPC, they'll do the MOI for you. You don't have to write it yourself. SAMRO writes its own MOI for its members. The members write the MOI. The members own the MOI. My record label at SAMRO. Do you register your record label at SAMRO? No. Are you a publisher? Publishers are the ones that are collecting from SAMRO and SAMPRA. So is your record label also performing the publishing? Because that's, if you're doing publishing for artists, then you would then be able to register the publishing arm of your label to a SAMRO or Capasso. But just as a record label, just JJ, no. Because artists must collect their own thing. Remember, SAMRO is for the intellectual property. This is what you need to know as an artist. Don't sign away your intellectual property. Don't sign away your masters. When you sign away your master to a record label and you say they own it, it's a problem. Because they're going to collect on your IP. Keep your IP. That's why a lot of artists say, I kept my masters. When you sign on the record label, never ever sign away your master. Because when you fight with your record label, they can even say to you, Futi, we don't want you to sing your song anymore. Because it's ours, actually. That's when record labels collect, but that's a big problem that we have in the industry. Bromsy, if you have a record label, must tell your artists to go and register with SAMRO so that they can collect their intellectual property. And then you must also make sure that you notify their works with SAMRO. As a record label, you should be making sure that their works are notified correctly and helping your artists to notify their works correctly. But don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't double dip. You get the talent and now you also want the ancestry. Guys, don't do that when you think that you are signing an artist. You sign the talent. You mustn't sign the artistry, the ancestry. Ukuthi ya udaliwe lo muntu manje wena ufuna ukusana le nto adalwe ngayo uNkulunkulu ufuna ukuyenza ibe yakho. Hayi, that's just me. I'm an independent artist. So Bromzi, just make sure all your artists at your record label are registered with SAMRO, and they call it a day, my brother. They'll be getting their money's worth through their earnings at SAMRO. Sometimes record labels take a percentage of people's earnings. Maybe your record label says that read your contract. That's what I'm gonna say, guys. It's 11 o'clock on the dot, and this session has come to an end. Thank you so much for coming through, for joining. SAMRO was not created by someone; it was created by our industry. And I wouldn't say that about SAMRO. I wouldn't say funk SAMRO. What I would say is we need to fix our MOI to make sure we make sure that it delivers on our needs. Remember that we've now established SAMRO globally, and if we kill this SAMRO, you also know that when you're coming for the second time, people won't take you seriously. SAMRO's big, guys. We can't just kill it. We've got to make it work for us. If we just kill it, it means that we are losing a lot of earnings. We're going to be having fights with France, with UK, with USA. No, SAMRO's no longer there. Now the new organization is this, and then people must. I would not stand for that. Can
I ask a question?
All of your comments. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming through.
Can I ask a question before you go?
Yes, absolutely.
So now, in terms of, because what you're saying, it sounds like we need to change the MOI, and it sounds like at this EGM that we're going to, SAMRO can just use the MOI against us. For example, the situation with the proxies and the record labels using proxies, is it possible that SAMRO can now strategize and just use that loophole of the record labels and the proxies to outvote us and the member needs?
Yes. So much like a union, it's very easy to organize a union in a mine, and it's very difficult to organize a union in a high-rise in Sandton City. In a mine, everybody doesn't have the muscle to fight the management. So it's easy for everybody to pay 80 Rand. I'm making this example. But in a big company, it's hard to get a union because people that are making lots of money are like, why must I pay 80 Rand? I can just get a lawyer and they'll fight it for me. In fact, I don't want to go to the union because the union might not be as educated as me. Now, what we have in SAMRO, which is a very tricky situation, is where we have the numbers in terms of members, But we also have the labels who are very strong in terms of vote. So what we need to do as members is first go and deal with our membership tiers. What is a member? What is a normal member? What is a vote? What is this member? What is this member? So that we can understand what member kind of tiers. Also, we're dealing with an organization where under one umbrella, you've got publishers and you've got composers. So you've got a person who's a standalone, and you've got somebody who's a stand for many, being seen as the same kind of member. So in order to change that, we have to go to our membership rules and change our membership rules. Because when we vote, interests win. So the people who have the interest and the voting power, they make the decision in terms of our membership rules. So for this EGM, we are facing that challenge. But in the EGM, it says we must talk about the MOI and the amendment of the MOI. As members, we must demand that the amendment of the MOI must be a meeting of all members of SAMRO. Organizations all over the world do this, where they call all their members and they make sure all their members can get there. There must be trains, there must be buses, there must be taxis coming from all over the country, paying members to come to the AGM, pay to the amendment of the MOI. We must take over an island or take over a space that's 8,000 people, and it's our conference of SAMRO, a SAMRO conference. We must all be there, and there must be different rooms and different languages and translating. Guys, we redistribute 300 million every year to people that is not supposed to get that money. It's very easy for us to take that 300 million and say, let's have a boss parade. Because at the boss parade, we are now dealing member on member. And we can now change the MOI in a meaningful way. What's going to happen at the EGM, I suspect, is that they're going to say we want to appoint a company to do our MOI for us. No, we should be saying we want to appoint a company to organize a boss parade for the conference, for the SAMRO conference. And the business of the SAMRO conference is the amendment of the MOI. We're going for a week. All languages are going to be accommodated for all valid members as at the date of the EGM, as at the date of the 11th of July. For only those members who are registered and are members. And we say we want this thing to be organized and we want it to take place. It'll cost a lot of millions, I'm sure, but it'll be worth it. Because when we come out of there, we'll have an MOI that services all the members and doesn't service a particular voting bloc. And we have to fight for that to happen, and by all our will and our might. For me, that's the only way I can think about it, because the way it's structured, the proxy system, people sign over their proxy, a publisher comes, I know you said record label, a publisher comes, Sony comes, and they're voting for 10% of the membership. Then Universal comes, and they're voting for 30% of the membership. Then whatever comes, they're voting for whatever percent of the membership. We must also understand, how are we voting? Are we voting based on membership? Are we voting on market share? Because if we're voting on market share, we're screwed. Because in South Africa, more American music is played than South African music. So if we're voting on market share, America makes a decision. Never mind just the record labels or the publishers in South Africa. So these are the things that we need to understand and be clear on and address them. So Ntiki, what I can say is that at the EGM, in summary, when it's spoken about the MOI, we should really be talking about, we as members believe that we need to meet as members in a conference of members and amend the MOI. A company can arrange that conference of the members. They can facilitate that conference. That conference must take place in all the official languages of our country, and that conference must make sure that every member who is able and capable and willing and wanting to do so must come to the as conference, and that's what happens. So that anybody who doesn't attend the conference, they're attending out of choice, not out of circumstance. And that's then we amend the MOI like that to service us all as members.
So then, is then the upcoming EGM just a waste of time then? Because obviously they've planned for this, and they know the MOI, and they know that they can use the proxies and the majors to just trump everything we want to do anyways. So what do we do then? When you say we want this Bosporad, does that mean that at the EGM we don't do anything because it's still going to be under the old MOI, or what does it mean?
Okay, so first of all, the matter about the MOI is a matter for discussion, not a matter for voting. So that cannot be a vote. There will be no vote. As members, we'll be saying this is what we want. Now, it's important that we say it because the minutes will capture it. Then there'll be an AGM where we now vote on the matter. And as members, we now need to mobilize. At the EGM, we can say, okay, now that we've said we want all the members to come, how is it that we are going to access all members to make sure members can vote? Because it's a member issue, it's not a proxy issue, it's not a representation issue. We don't want anybody representing somebody else. Wait, Embo, I'm still in my meeting, you're gonna lose your points. Do you want to lose your points? Just wait for a second. Now, if they say they don't want to do it, I believe or I think that would be good grounds for us to go to court and say, SAMRO, it's just for pretend. It's just a scam. Because if we as members say we want to have a conference of all members, why is the member organization not having the conference? And if the record labels say no, but our members don't want to, then a judge must, then let's take it to a judge and say, no, but judge, this record label is speaking on behalf of market share. They're not speaking on behalf of members of SAMRO, the South African Music Rights Organization. SAMRO members are people that are South African members, not market share. So, as members, we can definitely call upon that. And if they don't do it, I think when we raise that in the EGM and it doesn't happen, and they utilize the systems that they usually utilize to basically, then they're window dressing as a member organization, but actually it's just a racket. It's just a scheme. It's just a scam. Because if members cannot meet, even the fact that somebody said last AGM was so full that it was so full in the hall. Why are we still having AGMs there at SAMRO House when SAMRO knows it's got 13,000 members? That's when we can say we've got evidence that this thing is a scam, because they've got 13,000 members, but they always hold their meetings in a room that can take 500 people. So I think now that we are participating as artists, it takes time to change a system, but it's one step at a time. You raise the issues. I see there. Are you happy with the level of transparency of SAMRO and SAMPRA to the industry? And are they obliged to hold roadshows to inform the public on the nature of their work, or it's just another ANC for cronies? I don't know what's an ANC for cronies. I don't want to be. I don't know what. Politics in South Africa is also just a scam. Anything that you're not participating in as a member, anything that you're not participating in as a member is going to be utilized. It might be for your benefit, it might not be. But anything that you're participating in as a member, it's going to be utilized. So if you're not active in your participation, you won't know whether it's being used for you or whether it's being used against you. South Africans don't participate at a political level, on a day-to-day level. Let's be honest, we don't participate. We only participate when it's time to vote. And political parties are wise to that. Even when we're voting, we don't apply our minds to say, which people did I see picking up the most paper, volunteering the most? We only care about who's doing door-to-door now, who's paying me now, who's benefiting me now when it's voting time. So SAMRO will only serve you if you are there, on them, all the time. And you've just got to, this is how you do it. You just follow processes. You go to the EGM, you go to the AGM, you participate, you ask questions, you read the MOI, you understand what the limits of the MOI are, so that people cannot sell you dreams. For a long time, we have been sold dreams. And I think because we were not educated and not reading the MOI, we didn't know, which is why we hold these classes every single Tuesday at 10 o'clock, guys. Every single Tuesday at 10 o'clock, I go through the MOI. I do this, the presentation that I have is on a platform called Prezi. I'll share the 2 links for this week and last week in the Artists INDABA group so that you can go through it. But you do really need the presentation and to watch the presentation to know what's happening. Moya Podcast is also saving this as a series. So you should definitely visit the Moya Podcast as well. Thank you so much and have a great Tuesday.